You won't believe this, Johnny Carson, the man who made or broke comedians with just a smirk, absolutely despised Jerry Seinfeld. Think about that. The king of late-night television, who launched legends like Robin Williams and Joan Rivers, couldn't stand the guy who went on to build one of the most successful sitcoms in television history. Why? The answer isn't just about two famous men clashing. It reveals a lot about Hollywood's hidden rules, power games, and how comedy itself changed forever. For 3 decades, Carson ruled the night. If you were a comic and Johnny invited you over to the famous couch, your life changed instantly. Careers exploded overnight. That nod from Carson was like being knighted in comedy. But Jerry Seinfeld? He never got that nod. Never got that warmth. And people always wondered, what was it about Jerry that rubbed Johnny the wrong way? Let's rewind to the early 90 seconds. Jerry Seinfeld was everywhere. His sitcom dominated Thursday nights. Critics praised him as a genius. He was 38, wealthy, and one of the most powerful performers in Hollywood. But then came the scandal that shifted everything. Jerry started seeing Shoshana Lonstein, a high school student, just 17 years old at the time. The two were photographed constantly. Jerry insisted nothing happened until she turned 18. But America couldn't ignore the 21-year age gap. She couldn't even buy a drink, while he was nearly 40. For Johnny Carson, who was old school to his bones, this was crossing a line. He'd built his career on being someone families could trust, someone parents felt comfortable letting into their homes. To him, Jerry's choice wasn't just questionable, it was tacky. Carson reportedly even told his writers not to make jokes about Jerry and Shoshana on The Tonight Show because he didn't want that circus on his stage. And when asked years later about comedians like Jerry, Carson simply said, "Some comedians understand that success comes with responsibility. Others just understand success." A line sharp enough to cut glass. But Johnny's dislike for Jerry wasn't only about that relationship. It was also about who Jerry was behind the camera. On stage, Jerry came across as friendly, clever, and relatable. The guy next door, noticing the little absurdities of life. But people who worked with him off-camera painted a different picture. They described him as cold, distant, and not particularly kind to the crew. Carson, on the other hand, had a reputation for remembering stagehands' names, asking about their kids, and treating his staff like family. To Johnny, humility mattered. And Jerry's wall of detachment stood out. A Tonight Show writer once explained it perfectly. Johnny loved comedians who were sharp, but also human, humble enough to laugh at themselves. Jerry had the wit, but the rest, not so much. That became obvious when Jerry dismissed other comics, even people Carson respected, as trying too hard. The audience laughed, but the green room froze. Everyone knew Johnny didn't like comedians who tore down their peers. And then came money. Oh, this was a big one. Johnny Carson was rich, no doubt about it. He made hundreds of millions from his career, but you'd never hear him brag about it. He lived well, but he stayed modest. He thought flaunting wealth was distasteful and disconnected comedians from the audience. Jerry, on the other hand, built a whole second career out of showing off his wealth. His 100-plus Porsche collection, his private jet lifestyle, even his interview series, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, revolved around luxury cars. Johnny shook his head at that. "You don't get funnier when your garage gets bigger," he once told a writer. To him, comedy came from observing ordinary life. If you lost that connection, you lost the heart of it. But the biggest insult may have been how Jerry dismissed the very format that gave him his career. For 30 years, Carson had refined the art of the late-night talk show, the monologue, the couch, the conversation. It wasn't just fluff to him. It was America's nightly town square. And here comes Jerry with his shiny new web show saying, "I don't want to interview actors about movies I haven't seen. That stuff is fake. What I'm doing is real." He never named Carson directly, but everyone knew who he was talking about. And Johnny, who was fiercely protective of his legacy, took it personally. Imagine being told by someone you once helped that your life's work was just fake enthusiasm. Brutal. Then there was the comedy itself. Carson loved comics who dug into the messy stuff. Richard Pryor talking about race and addiction, George Carlin tearing apart politics and culture, Robin Williams channeling manic energy born of deep personal pain. They made people laugh, yes, but they also made them feel. Jerry flat out said he wasn't interested in feelings. He wanted funny, nothing else. For Carson, that made Jerry seem hollow. As one of Carson's friends put it, Johnny respected Jerry's skill, but thought his comedy never left the surface. It never swam in the deeper waters where the real treasures are. And when Carson looked for someone who reminded him of himself, he didn't point to Jerry. He pointed to Norm Macdonald. Dry, fearless, willing to bomb if it meant staying true to his voice. Norm even became one of the few comedians Carson publicly praised after retirement. That was Johnny's stamp of approval. And when Norm passed away in 2021, Jerry's silence, no tribute, no words, spoke volumes. To Carson loyalists, it confirmed everything they already believed about Seinfeld's character. So, what does this all mean? This wasn't just one man disliking another. It was about two very different views of comedy and of life. Johnny Carson believed fame carried responsibility, that comedians had to connect with people, respect their peers, and stay grounded. Jerry Seinfeld represented a newer style, precise, polished, successful, but detached, almost clinical. And that gulf between them symbolized a bigger shift in entertainment from a shared national experience to a fragmented individual one. In the end, Carson never gave Seinfeld the one thing Jerry could never buy with all his wealth: his blessing. And maybe that's why this quiet feud still matters, because it makes us ask what kind of comedy really lasts? The kind that just makes us laugh about parking spots and soup? Or the kind that makes us laugh and feel something deeper at the same time? So tell me, whose side are you on here? Do you prefer Carson's warmth and humanity, or Seinfeld's sharp, detached genius? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to know how today's audiences see this clash. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's hidden rivalries, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and stick around. Because the next story might just change how you look at comedy and the people behind it forever.